I'm also going to put the electric sound producer on so we can get Tron noises. It's a car from the future. Hello everyone, my name is Kurt and you're watching another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive. This is going to be a really fun one, really unique and innovative car. This is the latest Porsche Taycan 4S. And yes, even though it kind of looks like it should be pronounced Taycan, it's Taycan. That's the way Porsche wants you to pronounce it. And this is a electric car that's sort of changed how I feel about electric cars. I've done a couple other electric car reviews. I think they're really neat and fascinating, but like Taycan takes it to a whole new level. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it for a little bit of a regular drive briefly, and then we're going to hit the canyons and see what this car is capable of. Right now we're just in normal mode. This car has normal and sport mode. This is the 4S, so it has a front motor and a rear motor, and they combine for 562 horsepower. This is the 4S with the battery plus option, or sorry, the performance battery plus option. Basically what that means is that these cars have a small battery option and a big battery option, and of course you want the bigger battery option. You can get about 203 miles according to the EPA, but that is a very underrated number. 93 kilowatt hour battery. Most people are getting closer to 250 really without even trying, not even hypermiling or anything like that. This is, like most other Porsches, an underrated car and has underrated stats. You know, it probably has more than 562 horsepower, and it definitely gets better than 203 miles of range. At least I have easily been doing that. Now, part of the reason it's innovative is that in the EV space, most EVs don't have a multi-gear transmission. This has a 2-speed transmission and definitely gives you like a kick in the pants when you're driving it hard. It's quite interesting because EVs don't really need a transmission. They can spin to ridiculous RPMs, and they traditionally just have this, like, you know, they pull. They just pull infinitely, and it kind of feels the same. Whereas this car, when it gives you the transmission hit, it feels a little different. I just hit that button right there, which is the nose lift. Super nice because that embankment, as you can see by all the scrapes, gets hit all the time. And the nose lift feature in this car is a lovely one because this car has an air suspension. Now, the air suspension not only gives you access to nose lift, you lift up the nose to make sure that you don't destroy your front end on any steep inclines, but also the air suspension is just super comfortable. Like the comfort level in this car and performance are pretty much unmatched to anything I've driven. I mean, between the air suspension, having a lovely ride, of course we're in normal mode right now, but then it's just so quiet because of course it's an EV, and it has a coefficient of drag of 0.22, which is the lowest coefficient of drag of any Porsche vehicle. So that means it's very slippery, and the lower the better. That just means that basically we have very little wind noise in this thing and very little drag aerodynamically on this car. We're going to give them a minute to get up that canyon so we can do a little more of a fun run up the canyon, but we're going to take a break to talk about the interior. So you have all these screens, but it's not like they did the traditional Tesla thing, and I really appreciate Porsche for stepping away from that, because so many car manufacturers are just putting a massive tablet right here and being like, okay, yeah, we're done. You have a center screen here for what would traditionally be the speedo and RPM, things of that nature. Of course, you have navigation in the center. You have the center screen, which is a little more for your entertainment. and your driving modes, of course, but you can certainly get to your phone and media type stuff here. And then you have your HVAC controls right here for heating and cooling and everything like that, cooled seats. What we're gonna do is put it into sport mode and accelerate like crazy. Sport mode does change the characteristics of the air suspension quite a bit. I'm also gonna put the electric sound producer on so we can get Tron noises. It's a car from the future. It's absolutely so strange to drive a car that is this fast and this comfortable and this seamless. Sport mode, as I said, stiffens up the suspension, and you also have these recuperation options that you can mess with here. So in Teslas, you can also set the recuperation. I think they call it, I'm blanking on the name, but they recoup the battery basically when you let off the gas and are hitting the brakes. When you hit the brakes in every EV, it's regenerating electricity. But what Porsche does that's a little different than Tesla is that when you just let off the gas in a Tesla, it really tries pretty heavily to recuperate some of that energy, especially with that mode on in a Tesla. Porsche makes an important distinction here because they are not really recuperating that much energy even with this button on. It coasts way more than a Tesla, and you can't one pedal drive this car. That's the important distinction. It doesn't recuperate enough energy that once you let off the gas, it kind of just like brings it to a stop like it does in a Tesla. I guess Porsche has decided that it's more efficient to do it the way they are. It's more efficient to coast. Now, it still recuperates a ton of energy, and 90% of the braking happens with the motor recuperating electric energy, which is pretty crazy. So you're basically never gonna have to service the brakes on this car. It's pretty mind-boggling, and that's the same for pretty much every electric vehicle for that matter. These noises crack me up. We need to do a launch. Launch control in this car is really easy. Here's a pretty good straightaway. No one behind us. I love Porsches for their launch control because all you have to do is left foot on the brake, right foot on the gas, launch control activated. Oh, and I didn't have my head back. That was dumb. It's so fast. I mean, easily the 0 to 60 they claim is 3.8 seconds. Easily does that. Absolutely easily does that. 12.2 in the quarter mile. Now, the Battery Plus option gives you 40 more horsepower. I keep saying Battery Plus. It's the Performance battery option. Gives you 40 more horsepower than the traditional Taycan 4S. So you definitely want that because it also gives you the added range. The EPA hasn't rated the base 4S yet with the smaller battery, and you know, not that it really matters because that number seems kind of made up anyways. The bigger battery version is pretty much all you can buy right now, and that's what this car has. It can easily get 250 miles of range. Another way that the Taycan is unique in the EV space is that it uses 800 volt system voltage, and that's about double the traditional voltage. And what you get from 800 volts is faster charging, amongst some other things. And that's an important distinction from some of the other competitors. And it's also something to keep in mind that in order to get the Porsche charging times, you have to be using their 800 volt system. So if you do use their system, you can get from 5% battery to 80% battery, that's a 75% charge, in about 22 minutes. So they're really trying to get the charging times down, of course, as much as possible to be able to compete with things like gas engine cars where you can just go to a station and fill up gas within 5-10 minutes and be on your way. So they're getting really close. But once again, as we talked about, most people that use these cars are charging them at home anyways. So is it really a big deal? The whole like infrastructure charging, of course it is, because anytime you want to take a road trip or anytime you're going further away from your house, you need to charge your car. But it's becoming less of a point because it's not like you can top off your gas when you're at home, right? With electric cars, for the most part, basically every time you leave your house, assuming you have some sort of charging station there, you have a full battery. Whereas in a gasoline car, that's not the case, right? You always have to go to the gas station. Another cool thing or feature in the Taycan is this premium package that this car has. It gets a better sound system. It gets this really cool glass roof, which seems to be a thing in all the electric vehicles now. But you also get the Matrix LED headlights, which are super, super cool. Unfortunately, in the US, because of regulations, you don't get all of the features of these headlights. Like if you're in other markets, they do all kinds of crazy things with like oncoming traffic, and they can adjust the depth of the beam in certain areas because it has a whole bunch of little individual LEDs. It's really nuts. Like, look into it. I don't want to get too into the weeds of the LED matrix headlights, but look into it if you're curious, and hopefully the US will update their antiquated headlight laws soon. When I drove the Model Y, I made a remark about how the Model Y is a little different than the Model 3, that it gets a heat pump. Heat pumps are used in electric vehicles to optimize battery performance, especially in cold weather climates. And they also are more efficient with how they heat up your vehicle. Now, not every Tesla has a heat pump. All the Taycans have a heat pump. That's an efficiency thing for Porsche, and it's something that you can be sure of, especially if you're in a cold climate, that your battery the battery degradation isn't going to be as bad because you have a heat pump. In electric cars without a heat pump, your range is significantly lessened if it is quite a bit colder. And the last thing I'll say, which is pretty cool about the Taycan, is it has charging ports on both sides. Both front fenders, left and right, have charging ports, so you can charge it with a charger on either side, which I find pretty convenient and a nice little feature. But overall, this thing it's just the ultimate daily driver. It is so comfortable for regular tasks, and when you put it in just normal mode, normal suspension, it has all the ground clearance you need with the nose lift, and it floats over bumps. It's super quiet because there's no wind noise. There's certainly no noise from the engine because there is no engine. And when you want to go fast in these canyons, you hit the sport button, suspension stiffens up. It's already crazy fast in normal mode, but you get, kind of the electric sport sound system turned on, and it gives you a little bit of a different experience. Is it anywhere near something like my GT4 driving on this road? No. I still need a gas engine car for fun, that I can row the gears in, that I can experience the scream of the engine and the whine of the gearbox. That's a visceral experience. But when I'm not doing that, which is most of the time, and when I'm driving most of the time, I just want something like this, which is efficient, it's quiet, it's comfortable, and it just puts you in a good mood going someplace, because it's just, you're almost in your like little time capsule. I mean, we're just getting to the ultimate point of transportation right now. This is kind of changed the game in the electric space for me, because the build quality is phenomenal, and it's everything you would expect from Porsche just in the EV space, which is something that has been missing from the market, and is why this car is so special. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I tried this new POV style, so let me know if you enjoyed that. And if you want to check me out in between episodes, see what I'm up to, Eat, Sleep, Drive TV on Instagram. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.